Supervisors work session, Tuesday, November 19, 2024 at 3:53 p.m. Board meeting room at 39 Bank Street, Chatham, Virginia. Ms. McCluster, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bowman?
Here.
Mr. Dudley? I know he's here. Mr. Height?
Here.
Mr. Ingram?
Here.
Mr. Whittle?
Here.
Mr. Tucker?
Here.
Mr. Dalton?
Here. Moving to item 3, are there any items to be added to the agenda? Not hearing any, we'll move to item 4. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ingram, second by Mr. Tucker. Any further discussion? If none, we're ready to vote. Motion passes 6-0 no. For the citizens' convenience, all work sessions and committee meetings are now being recorded and can be viewed on the county's Facebook as the same YouTube location, the Board of Supervisors business meeting. Please remember that the board's work session is designed for internal board and county staff communications, discussion, and work. It is not a question and answer session with the audience. Accordingly, during the work session, no questions or comments from the audience will be entertained, and respectfully, any outburst or disorderly conduct from the audience will not be tolerated and may result in the offending person removal from the work session. As a reminder, all county citizens and other appropriate parties are designated by the board's bylaws are permitted to make comments on the hearing of the citizens section of tonight's business meeting. Moving to item 5A, our presentations. We have county broadband update by Mr. Scott Budd. Welcome, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Chairman?
Good, thank you.
I'd like to introduce Rob Taylor with River Street Networks. He's going to go over the broadband project update for us, and also a BEAD letter of support. BEAD, which is Broadband Equity, Access, and Development, is a new pool of money the federal government has put out for expanding broadband in rural locations. We asked you guys to write a letter of support for River Street. Now, this does not lock them into us only getting that. Other ISPs can use some of this money also, but we're just saying that we support River Street and them gathering some of that funds from the federal government, and Mr. Taylor can speak more on it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Budd. Welcome, Mr. Taylor.
Afternoon. Let's see if we have this working today. There we go.
Ms. McCluster, Mr. Dudley's here, present. Can you put it?
Good afternoon. Providing you a broadband update today. I wanted to give you an overview again of the project. This project's been funded by CAF2, which is the Connect America Fund, as well as RDOF, which is Rural Digital Opportunity Funds. Those were both funds from the FCC. In addition to that, we have VATI funding from the state of Virginia for 2022 and 2023. The county has matching funds, as well as River Street has matching funds. In total, we'll be passing just under 16,500 funded locations. A breakdown of the funding is here. The CAF project is going in conjunction with our others, but the only funding there is between the federal CAF funding as well as what River Street is bringing on board. And in addition to that, we have the VATI 2022, which was the large project that came out after the ARPA funding. This is where the county brought school and their own ARPA funds to help match River Street funds to secure over $39 million in VATI funding. That project is just under $76 million. We took that and dovetailed it into another project, which was coming out for VATI 2023. So the total project that we're looking at right now in the county is a $91 million fiber build. This is fiber to the home. The fund breakdown is between CAF and RDOF. The federal funds is just under $6.4 million. The ARPA funds that the county's bringing in with the schools and the county is $16.5 million. State funding is in excess of $43 million. We're also having to bring up our own match funds. So this is RDOF funds that we won't get until after the project's over. So River Street's going out after additional $5.3 million to fund the ARPA funds or the RDOF funds until we get those. In addition, River Street's bringing in another $19 million, or a total of $24 million into this $94 million project. Looking at the timeline, again, it's hard to see on some of the screens, but the timeline shows that we're currently on schedule to complete this project before the end of 2025, which is inside the guidelines of the current VATI requirements for 2022 and 2023. Again, keep in mind that these are both VATI 2022, 2023, RDOF, and CAF 2 being built all at the same time. Here's an overview map, and if you remember, I was just here in October, but I wanted to give you a quick snapshot of what the map looks like. And basically what we've done is we brought online some more locations out in Mr. Dalton's area, out there in the Callens area. And I see Mr. Ingram's not too happy about it, but we're getting there, Mr. Ingram, trust me. We've got quite a bit of building going on over in Roswell.
I'm not done with you yet.
What's that?
I'm not done with you yet.
So here we are. So this, again, is just since last month. We've added another 369 locations that have access to the fiber. And again, that gives us a total of 5,500 locations that currently in the county have access to broadband fiber. We have 394 locations that are also been added to the construction. So currently under construction, we have 3,400 locations that are being constructed. And we have about 838 locations that are close to being ready to get cut over. So if you look between where we are now and where we were, we're currently at 949 customers installed, which was an increase of 110 locations. That was just since last month. We've added another 110 customers to the network, and we currently are working 197 orders. Since our last report, again, we've increased 125, and we are in process of somewhere around 1,146. If you look at all of that, we're still at about a 22% to 21% take rate here in the county. So we're getting a bit of interest in the service, and to be honest, it's a little higher than I would expect. Normally we're looking at about 5 to 10%, but we have a lot of pent-up interest here, and we're getting a lot of people ready to sign up and get the service turned on. Just a few items. Again, so far this year, we've had at least 10 sign-up days. There's 2 more scheduled, and they're going to happen in the next 30 days in December 5th, December 18th. Those locations haven't been decided yet, but when they are, they'll go on the web page, and later on in the presentation, I'll show you how to find those. So turning over to our marketing efforts, we recently did a evening event at the Callens Volunteer Fire Department. We had over 40 people show up. There were 9 walk-ins. We only had 14 people who made appointments, but we had 17 orders placed by the end of the day. Again, we continue to do brand awareness. You'll see these postcards going out. You also should see where we have billboards around the county. We have radio ads going on. We'll also do newspaper and other releases, as well as I think we have a TV ad going on in WDBJ7. After we build the brand awareness, which is a constant effort, we also do fiber notifications to let people know when we start building in their area that fiber's coming. We typically do those with postcards, door hangers, signs. Here's another example of our postcards. And then once it's available, we reach out with another postcard to let people know it's here. Now, what we're trying to do is drive interest to our website, or to get people to call to register. They can go on and pre-register to let us know they're interested, and once fiber is ready, then our CSRs will reach out to them and call them to sign up for service. Or if it's in one of the areas where the service is available, they can actually go on and register for service. And this is how you find the map, and that map will lead you to the registration process. Again, you can go to myriverstreet.net, scroll down to fiber build, then you select the item where it says fiber updates. After that, we'll take you to the screen to the right where you can select the county. After they select the county, that will bring them to the map where this map is searchable by either them locating their dot on the map or by entering their address. And from there, they can either register for a service if it's in a location that has service available, or they can go on and let us know that they're interested for service, and then we'll contact them once service is available. If they scroll a little bit further down, this is where you can have the upcoming events, to where they could go find an upcoming public event that we might have, and if they want to, they can go on and schedule an appointment and to sign up with one of our CSRs when we're in the area. We find a lot of people, especially in rural communities, like to have somebody to talk to face to do this. So we, like I said, we've had 10 of those events so far this year. We have 2 more planned before the end of the year. The next item I want to discuss is BEAD. So as mentioned earlier, BEAD stands for Broadband Equity Access and Deployment. This is the program that the NTIA received funding of $42.4 billion, and they allocated it out to different states. Virginia's allocation was $1.48 billion. Those funds are expected to use to supply monies for infrastructure, as well as equity, training, and access to low-income households. The state of Virginia is predicting that they will spend about $900 million of that $1.4 billion they were allocated just in infrastructure. And our plan is to go out and get a good portion of that is needed to finish off the build here in Pittsylvania County. And I'll go in more details what that looks like. So with the BEAD support letter from the county, we'll be ensured that we'll get the 9.9% total points available on the application, right? So if we don't get the letter of support from you all, then we go in there with a B grade at best, right? We're not going to get that A on our application. So we really would like to get that letter. Now again, that support letter does not preclude you from supporting any of the other ISPs, and it doesn't commit you to giving us any additional funds. This is just like the VATI 2023 would be a project in which we funded it, as well as the funds through the state for the BEAD program. So this is what it looks like. There's a layout of the county. You'll see there's approximately 3,500 locations. This is still a proximity because the NTIA and the state of Virginia are still going back and forth as to what is going to be considered a location. You might have some hay bales in there. You might have some farm buildings in there that they're still trying to figure out which ones are actual structures where people live or businesses reside, so that they can make sure the maps are correct. River Street feels that all of these, based on our extensive build in the county, are inside our build footprint. So we would be going after all of these locations. And again, we would add that 3,500 locations to the 16,499 that we're already passing. This is what the county would look like once we get the fiber built. All of those locations, almost 20,000 locations. And I did a quick look at the census. The 2020 census shows that the county has approximately 26,000 households, plus or minus, I think it was 900 and some. So we would be passing over 20,000 of those locations with fiber. Have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Taylor?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Taylor, I appreciate that. I did have one location I wanted you to check on for me. It's called Blackbird Place off West Fork Road. I had 2 calls that they were wondering why they were left out. I said, I don't know, but I know the man. I'll ask.
And that again, sir, was what?
It's Blackbird Place, and it's off of West Fork Road off 58 West. It's in the, it's a Cascade address.
All right. I'll look into that and get back to you.
Please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ingham. Any further questions?
I don't have a, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a question. I just, I guess we can add it to the consent agenda, that letter of support for the BEAD. Is that right?
It's already on there.
Yes, it's already on there, I think, Mr.
Oh, it
Tucker.
is.
It's
Okay.
on there, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And if you don't have, one last thing, if you gentlemen don't mind, I'd like to introduce other members of the River Street staff that are here tonight, or here today. In the audience with me is Eric Kramer, the CEO of River Street, as well as Mike Manell, the VP of Marketing. Those of us who are dressed this way, we're doing a check presentation over at the Pennsylvania Community Action Group. And then the other two gentlemen that aren't dressed as nicely, they were out actually riding the roads, checking on projects. And that's Michael Brown, the VP of Engineering, and also Greg Coltrane, the VP of Business Development. So I want to make sure that you all recognize.
Thank you. Great. Thank y'all, gentlemen.
Anything else for me?
Thank you.
Can we expect another update in 60 days?
60 days? You got
Yes,
it.
sir. That's what, is that good, gentlemen? We been doing every 60 days? Okay. All right, we're good. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to item 5B, the IALR update, and that's going to be Mr. Telly Tucker. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors. It's my pleasure to be before you today. Here with me is our Vice President of Economic Development, Linda Green, who also serves as Executive Director for the Southern Virginia Regional Alliance, and I'll just ask her to join me at the podium if it's appropriate. This is my third time here providing an update for you all, and it's a pleasure to come before you to keep you informed about the happenings at the Institute. As a reminder for folks, ILR was founded in 2002. We entered our building at the end of 2003, going into 2004. So this year serves as 20 years of the main building being in place. Today, 20 years later, we now have 7 buildings on our campus. And our economic impact really is felt much greater than I think certainly I ever anticipated when I took the helm as the president here 2.5 years ago. But I have to commend visionary leaders in our community who saw fit to work regionally to establish the Cyber Park and this institute. And we could not have done it without regional collaborative leadership. So I want to thank you for that. We continue to serve 6 counties and 2 cities if you think about our primary service region, from Patrick County to Mecklenburg County on the east, up to Franklin County in the north side, but also includes Henry County, Halifax, and Pennsylvania County in the middle, and the cities of Martinsville and Danville. But quite frankly, the programs, partnerships, and the service that we provide now has a statewide and a national impact. I would even argue a global impact. Our mission is still to regionally catalyze economic transformation. And I can think of no better way to do that than today to talk about economic development. So the first time I was here, provided an update on the Manufacturing Advancement Division, which is one of our 5 divisions. The second time I came, I talked about our advanced learning programs, which are the programs that work with K-12 schools throughout the region, programs like GoTech, which we're very proud of and have gotten a lot of recognition for. Today, we're going to talk about economic development. And so it's really critical, and the timing couldn't be better to talk about some of the data and trends and how we compare. And so I'm going to invite Linda to come up and take over the presentation and share a little bit about our economic development success and how the Institute supports economic development activity in the larger region.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Welcome, Ms. Green.
Thank you all so much. I think we've spent a lot of time together over the last week, and it's been special time. As you all know, our office works as somewhat the middle person between the state and localities, but I like to think of us as a seamless team. And Matt Rowe, Corey Bobet, but also you all don't see as often the Patrick County economic developer James Houchins, and then Christy Johnson in Halifax. Martinsville Henry is not currently an active member, but we still market the assets of that part of the region. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the things you might not always see. Do I hear? Okay. This is going to be part of the SVRA board meeting tomorrow morning, so we wanted to go ahead and share some of the stats. On an every month basis, the board reviews metrics, and this is the metrics not just of Pittsylvania County, but the entire region, but Pittsylvania County makes up a huge part of these numbers. So we have been looking at the trends. The first chart on the upper left is the chart of prospects and site visits. So we monitor those numbers. You'll see how high your prospects go. Then you'll see us really working with those in the light green on site visits. The chart to the right of that, and I'm having trouble seeing, so I know you all are, but that one is getting to the next activity with the number of companies and the number of existing expansions. So you see that. What you'll notice is you're constant in not just the expansions, but also bringing in new companies. If you compare this to the rest of the state, it is very unusual for a county this size to have more than one announcement in a year. You all are running close to one every 2 months on an average. When you look at the bottom chart, that's job creation. Now, if you look at that a little bit closer, you see a bar in the middle. That tall bar in navy was the year that Caesars was announced, and those numbers are in there. But without Caesars, you still would have had a huge blip that year. It would have been where the top of that bar is without Caesars, and you see the growth. That was Morgan Olson. Then you see Tyson's 2 years later. So you see that constant growth. And now look at what has happened when you brought in Microporous on the end. This is capital investment. So this is what is going to change the tax base of Pennsylvania County and the surrounding regions because of the work that you all are doing. So that's the capital investment. If you look back over years prior to this, what you're going to see is that you were usually in the low 20s to 50s. And now what you see is a constant climb in capital investment. So how does that compare to the rest of the state? We do quarterly meetings with all the regions across the Commonwealth. For the Southern Virginia region, we make up 2% of Virginia's employment. So not a huge slice when you think what they would expect to come to us. But now let's look at what's happening because of your hard work. 14% of VEDP's new projects, and that was 3 of 21 last quarter, came right here. 15% of new jobs created at 199 last quarter of 1,323. Now recognize this was before your more recent announcement. This was last quarter. 3% of CapEx at $26 million last quarter of $1,014,000,000 in the Commonwealth. We had 22% of pipeline projects, or 27, were located in this region of 122 in the state. For the last 4 years, you have ranged from 22 to 29% of the projects in the state you've had a chance at because of the sites you've developed. Now, I can tell you, when I'm sitting in a room with other regional economic developers, they are in awe. They cannot imagine why you're getting such a slice. I know it's because of the planning, the commitment, and the things like what you talked about earlier today. When you look at your sites inventory, 5% of the sites in the Commonwealth are in Southern Virginia. When you look at certified sites, the ones that are ready and have the engineering and due diligence complete, 35% of the certified sites in the state are right here. 34 out of 98, 35%. 13% of the pad-ready sites are right here. What this means is you're getting first chance at good projects. But then what does it mean to you in employment? 14,710 manufacturing jobs. You're growing faster. See that 2% growth? But you could grow faster because there are areas in the nation that are climbing faster than us, most of them to the south of us. The southeastern states have the 4th largest economy in the world. So when you look at the growth in the south, it's incredible. You look at 17.4% growth in your employment in those years, and you start to see how hard you're working and how it's showing up, paying off. And then look at the wages on the far right. The jobs that you're bringing in are better jobs, higher paying jobs, jobs that'll make a difference in the future. And then look at your gross domestic product. This is the money that your manufacturers are making and returning to you and to the state. So right here you see we're not quite to the national average, but look at the climb you're making. This is how you're improving the tax base, and this is the story of why economic development matters in a community, why the decisions each of you are making are so critically important. How are you doing overall? Technista, you talked about a little bit earlier, 15 jobs, 1.5 million capital investment. You're not just looking for the giants, you're taking care of all the businesses across the region. And I'm really proud that that's a spin-off of a training technology with DOD that came out from Institute employees. So now they're creating their own wealth. The ribbon cutting for the Harville-Saunders Parkway, the capacity building that you're doing, and thank you, Vice Chairman Ingram, our Chairman of RIFA, for the work you did on that. It was tremendous. But to have $33.5 million invested from Department of Transportation, $38 million already committed and pledged right behind that, that's huge, and that led to the microporous announcement. 2015 jobs, over $1.3 billion. And I have to just pause and thank Matt Rowe for his night in, night after work on this project. Getting to Yes is what the company called Matt, Mr. Getting to Yes. And what does that mean for you all? Yes, it's the announcements. We're all super proud of the announcements. But that's not what it's about. Yesterday I was on a call with Jason L. Kuby, the president of Virginia Economic Development Partnership, and he said, people, you don't understand how big this is. So Telly and I did some calculations through the last day to look for you at how big this is compared to other projects. The average project announced in Virginia is 118 jobs, 71 million, and that's quite an announcement. This one was 2015 jobs and 1.351 billion. But those 2015 jobs, if you looked at every job announced since July 1 or this fiscal year for the Commonwealth, they've announced 4,493 jobs. 45% of the jobs announced were right here in your region. But look at the capital investment. 50%, and it's actually 50.2 if you want to go a little bit further, over 50% of the investment in the Commonwealth is the microporous project that you all announced. That's why it was so special. But we looked a little bit deeper, and marketing and telling the story is part of what SVRA does, so we do this regularly. What do we need to work on, and what do we need to celebrate? Since 1990, which was the year VEDP started tracking this data, this project was the 13th highest in jobs and the 10th highest in capital investment of all sectors. Now, guys, that was out of 9,894 projects announced. When you looked at the manufacturing projects, because we know we might not bring in the corporate headquarters here that you'd bring into a big city, you were the third largest in jobs and the third largest in CapEx of all projects that have been announced since 1990, or 25 years in the Commonwealth, led only by 2 semiconductor projects. So I thought that it was important for us to pause. We do a lot of data calculation based on companies and research that they need. Matt might call me anytime asking for data that would be useful to him and looking at projects. But this is a moment for you all to celebrate what Pittsylvania County did in partnership with the city of Danville to make a difference that will be felt for generations ahead. And with that, what do we need? We need continued site development. You are good and you're reaping rewards from that because you're prepared and you're ready. We're batting way above our average, and I can tell you we have 4 site visits this week because of what was happening. One, a direct supplier to them. Another, that's a DOD supplier that came because of what's going on in training at the Institute. So the investments that you're making are making a difference, but now's the time that it'll start to pay off. The infrastructure, a big one for you is going to be energy, and looking carefully at the energy needs of our region, how we can continue to increase our capacity so that you can continue to win projects, but also the transportation and the water issues. And finally, the workforce. Matt will tell you every project that we bring in, 75% of our time is showing them how our skilled workforce is superior to those around us. When they ask, can you do customized training? And our answer is, well, DOD chose us to do their customized training for the rest of the country. It's pretty hard to argue with that when they walk through. So these are the 3 things that I would ask you to continue to commit to. I loved hearing what we heard when we walked into the meeting, but I thank you for letting ILR and SVRA be a part of what you all do every day. And with that, I'm going to hit the next one. These are the economic developers above me that really make it happen. It's not me. I just get the pleasure of working with them. And back to Telly to end it.
Thank you,
Thank
Linda.
you, Ms. Green.
If there are a couple things that I could underscore, just anecdotally, I'll think back to arriving in this region in 2014 as Economic Development Director of the city at that time. And one of the things that convinced me that this was a place that I wanted to call home and to really set path a career move in terms of where we were projected to go over the next 10, 15 years. One of the reasons was because this region, the city and the county specifically, Danville and Pennsylvania County, had 6,000 acres of industrial park. Those were investments that happened long before I ever got here. But when you think about the success that we're having today, it's because of the foresight and the investment that those who come before us have made to set us up for the success today. And we heard during your comprehensive plan conversation and from your community development director about thinking about the future and sites that what will be available in the future and where will development happen. I think that's exactly the conversation that you should be having, and I would encourage you to continue to have that with engagement from your citizenry on what the future looks like for this region. Similarly, in infrastructure, those things help make the difference. And then, of course, lastly, workforce development. We talk about it a lot, but it cannot be overstated, in my opinion. It is the thing that separates this region from every other region that has a site and a building and infrastructure. Not every region has the investments in workforce. So much so that our federal government, our national government, has spent close to $200 million that helps complement what this region has already made. That kind of investment is because of the investment you all have helped lead and invest in the past. And I would just encourage us to continue to keep an eye towards that type of visionary leadership and investment going forward. It is a differentiator, it's a competitive advantage for this region, and it will allow not only our children, but our grandchildren and future generations of Southern Virginians to continue to be prosperous economically. So thank you for your time and the opportunity to update you on our economic development division works. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Tucker? Ms. Green? Mr. Tucker, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Sheldon. Ms. Green, Mr. Tucker, thank you for the presentation, and we want to reciprocate. We certainly appreciate you all and the wonderful job that you guys do in terms of marketing all of this region. And thank you for every meeting that you're in representing us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Bowman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you all for coming, and really appreciate it, and your hard work too for everything you've done for the county and for the city. So I want to go back, and I don't expect an answer right away on this question here, but it came up during Matt's presentation and I appreciate what he did by going through the current status of public industrial parks. And he listed all of those, and of course, Pennsylvania County pretty much is out of space with their established industrial parks. We know we have to move forward looking for land and to come up with an area where we can start expanding again. But I'm looking at the ones for like Cane Creek. There's roughly 4 pads available. Cyber Park, there's 6 pads available. The Southern Virginia multimodal park hasn't quite got off the ground yet. But what happens when Danville runs out of land? All right, they're very limited by their borders. And what's the thought process in looking for more industrial sites, development sites within the city of Danville? Or does this spill over into Pennsylvania County? And if that's the case, is there a partnership that we're going to be looking at again? Because I can almost assume that they're going to be looking for some opportunity to do cost, sharing, just like with the mega site. So is that kind of in the mill? Because I haven't heard anything, yet, but I can tell you right now, that's what I'd be looking at if I was living in Danville.
I think not only are both areas looking at a strategic plan together where you have the opportunity to look at the benefits of doing exactly that together, but both are actively looking at their sites, their existing parks. We did certification of all the top parks and completely finished engineering design studies on every park that had lots available. So that told you not just where the sites were, but what their strengths were. And from that, Matt and Corey were able to look at what is missing and take a deep dive. For instance, there are very few rail-served sites right now. So each time that Matt does another prospect announcement, he's also ticking down a site access off your list that takes you off the list. When I get leads, they say something like, do you have a 150-acre site that is rail-served, that's within so many miles of an interstate? And then we start to zero in on what matches. You all have matched an incredible number of those. That's why your numbers were so high. But each time they move one, that disappears as an opportunity for you. So, Mr. Bowman, you're exactly right. Us making sure that we're thinking a decade in advance. It takes a long time to develop the infrastructure for an industrial park or even a site. And so, yes, that will be starting to address it in the comprehensive plans that both areas are doing, and then your strategic plan should tie you together with that.
Okay, thank you. That's, again, more information. I didn't think you were going to give me all of that, but that's very good information, and I'm glad to hear that you're thinking future, because we kind of paint ourselves into a corner a lot of times. We're not prepared, and then all of a sudden it happens, and then what do? And so we're kind of reacting instead of being proactive there. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Just add one thing I would also say to your point, Mr. Bowman, about the city and the county working together. I think one of the things that years ago that was recognized was that the city was landlocked, and there is a finite amount of land that's going to be available for them. But one thing they had, I think, was an investment in infrastructure, utility infrastructure and that sort of thing. And they were able to bring that to bear, whereas the county with 1,000 square miles had much more land and could bring some of that to bear. So I think that's the exact type of collaborative relationship where you look at, okay, what do we do well and what do we have as an asset and what do you have as an asset, and how do we bring both of those to bear in terms of thinking regionally? Because as we all know, it's not getting any less expensive to develop parks. Every year that goes by, they will become more and more expensive. So I think it's going to take critical partnerships like RIFA to continue to think about those going forward. But absolutely great point.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Mr. Ingram?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I do want to echo my gratitude to you guys for being here in such a nice presentation. When I came on this board, I'm into year number 5, and I've been on the RIFA board for 5 years, and I've had the honor of being a chairman for 2 years. And each of the 2 years as chairman, 2 years ago, we welcomed the Navy with their program, and then with Mike reports this time around. So every other year is a good thing for the county, if you know what I mean. But what I see is several leaders that make up one collective team. In 5 years, I haven't seen any childish bickering, no backstabbing. Every one of our leaders, Matt, Corey, Katie, Linda, Telly, I'm leaving somebody out, but you guys are phenomenal. And, you know, I've said this many times, but we tend to get credit for a lot of work that we really didn't do. And I'm not belittling what we do as a board because it is important, but still, yeah, you guys are the foot soldiers. You're the leaders. And to have that many type A personalities that can come together and put down preferences and work together for the common good is nothing short of remarkable. And I will say, and you guys have heard it, we're known throughout the Commonwealth for a lot of good things, and this is one of them. And that's why we're getting so much attention, as you guys well know. But thank you so much for everything, and I look forward to the future.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Any further comments or questions? No. Thank y'all. Great presentation. Thank you for coming. All right, moving to item 6A, Ringo Rail Trail Bridge Repair Update. Mr. Arnold? Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Ms. Kazee is going to be circulating a handout, a hard copy version of the slide deck, because I'm ever aware of the fact that what I typically put on slides and show up on the screen are maybe illegible due to the font size. So I'm not going to say that physical hard copies is going to help you out that much, but if you got reading glasses, it may assist a little bit. So just going to give her a minute to circulate those copies. So as you all recall, last month we came to speak to you all during the October 15th work session about the status of the Ringgold Rail Trail project, and in particular the pedestrian bridge, which is the one outstanding portion of a much larger disaster recovery project that dates back to 2018 when Tropical Storm Michael hit Pittsylvania County as well as other localities in the area. In our case, it really hit us hard with some severe flooding. So what we're going to do is take a deeper dive into the disaster recovery project, because I don't think that I really did a good job in laying a good solid foundation for where we are today. And also several questions were asked during the last meeting that, thanks to being given some extra time, I believe we as staff have come up with some solid answers to some of those questions that were raised. What you're looking at right now on screen is a front and back of a little one-page handout or flyer that our public relations department put together to facilitate some meetings that staff have had with other members of the community about this project since that meeting. And we can give you all a full-scale version of it, so it is more legible, but I just want to point out that I think this was great work on behalf of our public relations manager, Ms. McFarland, and it really kind of summarizes the history of the project and the history of the trail in general. It's got a lot of historical significance. The one thing I'll say, though, is disregard the lower right-hand portion of that handout or on the slide that says what's needed now, and you'll understand why I'm saying to disregard that for the time being. So one of the questions that was asked during the last month's work session is, how long is the trail, and then where exactly is the bridge in relation to the span of the full Ringgold Rail Trail? Hopefully this map, along with the scale bar in the upper right-hand corner, gives you a better idea. It is around about 5.5 miles long, and the pedestrian bridge over Sandy Creek is approximately 2 miles from the Ringgold trailhead. So moving west to east from the Ringgold trailhead you would run into the bridge that we're going to be talking about here at greater length, the pedestrian bridge that was damaged as a result of Tropical Storm Michael. This is where you'll definitely probably need your reading glasses, as I can't even see anything on screen either. But the purpose of this timeline is to show how many steps have been involved in this project since October of 2018. So the timeline, I don't want you all to be overly concerned with the nitty-gritty details, but if you would, just notice the span in the timeline between the first dot, which was when the storm event occurred on October 11th of 2018, and when the disaster assistance agreement from FEMA was actually executed. It was about a 2.5-year time period that lapsed right there. So all that was just planning work, coming up with estimates, evaluating the damage and things like that. So I know we all look at this project and we're like, goodness gracious, well, why hadn't this thing gotten wrapped up since, it's been, we're November 2024 now, what, over 6 years ago? Well, when something like this happens and it's got multiple aspects to the project and you have multiple levels of state and federal government, West Piedmont Planning District Commission was also involved in assessing the damage and guiding the county through the disaster recovery assistance request process. This is kind of how it works. So, anyways, but after the project was, that assistance agreement was issued to the county in April of 2021, hopefully you can see graphically that the frequency of those dots along those little milestones picks up considerably. And before I click onto this map, I just want to point out the three phases. And the three phases were, there's a rail spur that was damaged as a result of Tropical Storm Michael. That damage has already been addressed, and that happened earlier on. There were also multiple sections of the trail, and when we look back at this first map, all those red rectangular areas indicate the areas along the trail that were washed out. So right closer to the middle, about 40% moving west to east along the trail is actually where the pedestrian bridge, which is the only outstanding thing there. But those other, if you look at the timeline, you can see, when those other phases of the project were complete and everything like that. Another question that came up last month is, well, do we have any way of evaluating how many people utilize this, outdoor recreation amenity and resource? And I think we said at that time, unfortunately, we don't, and that's still the case. However, if you look at, who's within a 15-minute drive time of either trailhead, either the one in the Sutherland area to the east or Ringgold trailhead to the west, we've got roughly 4,900 county homes. That's not counting the residences that spill over into Halifax County that can access it. The same thing is true with the city of Danville. A decent portion of their city residents also have access to this facility within a 15-minute drive time. And as you can see, we don't have the election districts labeled, but the bulk of the residents that can access it are in the Dan River District, although there's that southern area of the Bannister District that actually, is within that 15-minute drive time polygon as well. So now we're really getting into where we were last month. And these are the noteworthy changes or items that staff have worked diligently on to try to seek answers for. So everything that you're going to see in red indicates a change since last month's update. So you'll notice the eligible amount has gone from roughly $3.1 million to now a little over $3.6 million. And that's due to FEMA's acknowledgement of a calculation error that occurred when they issued their last budget amendment. Okay, that calculation error caused their additional funding allocation to be short roughly $472,000. The next area that's going to be crossed out and updated since last month's presentation is the estimation for additional professional services. It also includes construction inspections, geotechnical inspections, things of that sort. Staff estimated $250,000. We got with the project's engineer, and they sharpened their pencil, and they gave us a more reliable figure of $133,900 for that, okay? So if anybody has a memory, I'm sure these numbers are much, more on the tip of my tongue and the front of my brain than everybody else, but essentially we have reduced the shortage in funding to cover this, or the total eligible amount shortfall for this remaining phase of the project. It went from roughly 1.15 million to now we're around 570,000. And that's largely due to the calculation error that I mentioned a few minutes ago. And so where we are with that, FEMA unfortunately, it's not as easy as just like these slides were, marking a red line through it, putting the right number and initialing it. You have to go back through the review process. And so that's underway right now. And we continue to follow up with our FEMA representative to ask on the status of that. But it's not something that takes days or even weeks. It's going to take, a few months is what we anticipate. They've been a bit vague on pinning it down any further than that. So another question that came up during last month's presentation was, what would happen if FEMA would just simply say, hey, there is a current deadline to complete this project, and right now it's March 31st, 2025. What would happen if they did not agree to extend the project timeline? Well, we spoke with them, and in fact, we actually looked at the terms of the agreement, and that's what's cited right here and highlighted in yellow, that the subrecipient won't be paid for any services rendered or expenses incurred after receipt of the notice of termination, except such fees and expenses incurred prior to the effective date of the termination that are necessary for curtailment of the work under the agreement. So essentially what that's saying is, if the work has been done prior to the termination notice being disseminated to the locality, then you're still eligible for reimbursement on those items. And then the other question that I'm highlighting here at the bottom of this slide, and there we go, is, and I've already more or less addressed it, do we have any way to estimate or track the amount of usage the rail trail currently receives? And like I just mentioned, no, we don't. However, there are trail counters. An example of one is what you're seeing there in the lower right-hand corner of this slide. And ironically, not only did that question come from this board, but two other community organizations that we spoke with were also asking the same thing. So we recognize, hey, it's pretty important to be able to speak to, how important and how impactful is this resource. Whenever we're having conversations like this, whenever we need to seek additional support, or just garner support for recreational programs and services and facilities in general. So that's something that both Mr. Price and I recognize that more than likely you'll see that on the FY26 budget request. But don't let it bother you too much. I think that technology is pretty affordable, thankfully. All right, and another question that we had resulting from last month is, have we checked with any organizations like Caesars Casino in Danville, as well as looked into any other grant funding opportunities in the event that FEMA does not increase the total eligible amount of money to repair the pedestrian bridge? So since the last meeting, we have done just that. And let's start with Caesars Casino. We contacted their legal counsel, who took our inquiry very seriously, and he bounced it off of his contacts here at the local Danville Casino, and he quickly realized this type of request, due to the monetary magnitude of the request, would go to their Caesars corporate foundation. However, they only fund 501c3 organizations, and that doesn't apply in this case for us. But we also met with the CEOs of the three most notable community organizations that I'm at least aware of anyways, and that's DRF, the Community Foundation, and as well as JT Minimod. And it was too late to go into this slide deck, but we actually have received letters of consideration from all three of those community organizations. So that doesn't give us, it's no guarantee. They still have a competitive grants process that you got to apply for, and they're going to have a board that's going to review and vet and determine which projects to fund. But nevertheless, they recognize the importance of this trail as a recreational resource for the county, how important it is to overall wellness and community health. And they understand where we are, and they see that we're going to first try to see about getting additional funding to cover that delta from FEMA. Because again, this is an acknowledged federal disaster, incident or whatever that's worthy of federal assistance. However, in the off chance that FEMA is not able to increase the total eligible amount to close that gap and that funding shortfall, then they would be, willing to consider grant applications from us. So I think that hopefully answers all the questions that arose during last month's meeting, and hopefully also gives you all a better understanding of what all's gone into this project since October of 2018. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We've also got Mr. Price, and we also have, who's our Parks and Rec Director, as you all know, and we also have engineers from the project engineer team with Dewberry here, in case somebody has more of a technical question.
Very good.
All right, any questions? Mr. Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. More so a quick comment. And thank you, Mr. Arnold, for your presentation. And I want to thank you publicly because, sometimes people misconstrue if you ask tough questions, and I can do that sometimes. But I figured out a long time ago, the only way to get the right answer, you have to ask the right questions. And in doing so, you were tasked with going back trying to find additional funding, and by just taking a deeper dive and taking a look at the numbers, you found additional funding to close that delta. And we had already appropriated money to try to do that, but that is money that we can use in other areas. So I just wanted to thank you and acknowledge that you did exactly what we asked of you. And I also want to share with my colleagues that sometimes I want to study issues a little bit before I vote on them, because kind of like Joe Friday from Dragnet, probably just the facts. I want good information before I take a vote, because sometimes we get here and we spend the taxpayers' money. But I just want to remind everyone, there is no pain in spending someone else's money. So we have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money with every decision that we make. So I thank you, sir, and look forward to asking additional questions when a need arises.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker, and I appreciate the additional time that this board gave us to track down answers to some of these things and to look at everything more deeply.
Any more questions, Mr. Arnold? So I have a question, Mr. Arnold. The
Yes, sir.
time frame you said would probably be in 25 sometime, you thinking?
Well, okay, that's great. Glad you asked that. Yeah, let's go back to the original. So really, there's an action item right here, okay? And it's to put on matters of the work session, awarding the contract to the lowest bidder, which is Haynes Brothers, to repair the pedestrian bridge, okay? And so that, and another question that came up last month was, well, what's the time frame on acting on that lowest bid? And I'll say before you all and whoever else might be listening, it actually said 60 days in their offer or in their bid. And that 60 days actually expired yesterday. But we went back to them and got a 1-day or 2-day extension, I think. But anyways, so that's the action item. But what they anticipate is 730 consecutive days from, I guess, the notice of proceed, so when they start construction. So that's going to put us at, let's say we do that by the end of this month, then we're looking at the end of November 2026. 730 days is exactly 2 years, right? So, so what we would be doing is requesting a timeline extension for FEMA, and they understand that this occurs. They're used to it happening, and what they've told us is it can go one of two ways. Either they give us, they want to see some progress. They want to see that there's construction underway, and they're not just extending something that never is going to be acted on. So they said that we can either extend it all the way till the end that we foresee it taking for this work to be completed, which right now we're looking at, say, November, December of 2026, or what they'll do is offer extensions at 1-year increments, and then you go back and ask for another year, and then you ask for another year. So Mr. Price and I are, we're gotten real close with our FEMA and VDM contacts here recently, so I think we'll work that, and we'll make sure that we remain in a good place on that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Arnold. And Mr. Height?
Dave, thank you for working on this. This is in my district, so. 570,000 is a lot smaller pill for me to swallow. I appreciate that.
I fully get it. Yeah.
What I'm understanding, if we drag our feet and we don't award this contract, we stand a chance of losing the FEMA funding.
That could very likely happen. That could potentially happen, right? Yes. Because they told us another little piece of information that I was previously unaware of, that they like to see all projects completed within an 8-year time frame. So what happens? So look at October of 2018, go 8 years out from that. Now we're right around October, November of 2026. So our back is against the wall to a degree. And I'll also point out what happened the last time we put this project out for bid. And because we have been here before, and we put it out for bid in late 2022. And the lowest bid at that time, it's somewhere in these handouts, but I want to keep talking rather than, trying to find the exact number. But it was around 3.2 million, right? Okay. In an 18-month period of time, and you might recall this from the last meeting, that cost escalated by about 700 to 800,000, right? Well, the locality is responsible. That cost burden is not just going to be, on the shoulders of FEMA and VDM. We have 6% of that. Granted, a much smaller percentage, but 6% of around $800,000 is about $48,000. So we're losing money. If ever we want to get on this, the best time to do it is there's no time like the present kind of thing, is how I would answer your question.
Thank you.
Mr. Tucker? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I guess
you,
a
Mr.
motion would be in order, Mr. Chairman. I think I need to make a motion that we award this contract to the Haynes brother and put that on our
Business meeting tonight. All right. So we got
Ms. McCluster, is that what needs to happen?
Yes.
Okay.
we got a motion from Mr. Tucker to add that to our business meeting. Can I entertain a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Height. Any further discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Can we put that, I asked Vaden, can we put that on our consent agenda, or do you want it opened up for the discussion?
You can put it on consent, it's fine.
Okay. Is that how you would like to do it, is place it on the consent?
That would,
I'm good with that.
that's fine. I mean,
Okay, I
good.
just
All right.
wanted to be certain. Okay.
All right, do we need to verify that motion, Mr. Tucker, that we added to our consent
I'll
agenda?
remake the motion that we actually place it on consent agenda to award Haynes Brothers the.
Yes, sir.
All right,
the contract.
motion to add it to consent by Mr. Tucker. Mr. Height, will you second it, sir? Okay, we've got our second. Any further discussion? If none, we ready to vote? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you again,
Thank you,
Mr.
Dave.
Arnold.
All right, we're moving on to item 6B, a proposed calendar budget. Ms. Vanderhyde, welcome.
I hopefully have a short item to go over
Okay.
this afternoon.
Sure.
We've already gone over the budget calendar. We did that at your strategic meeting. I think it was a request of Mr. Bowman that we circulate that calendar around to you all so that you could review it. Nothing has really changed since the last meeting. I did verify that, our Tuesdays are really Tuesdays and our Mondays are really Mondays, and went through it several times to make sure all of that was accurate. That being said, this calendar is a work in progress. It's just something to go by. So approving that tonight doesn't mean that you couldn't change things.
Right.
It just gives you a guide with which to go by. So this mirrors exactly what we did last year. So it's really nothing any different. And if you all want to make changes, you could do so after we start the process. So I'm here to answer any question, make any changes before you all would vote, but it's already on your consent
It is.
agenda for
Yeah.
tonight.
No, I'm good with it. Gentlemen, y'all have questions? Mr. Bowman?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Kim, so we can make changes to this when? Because the question I have is, you've got, and I say you've got, I mean, it's on here as, let's see, it was Thanksgiving, the day after, November the 26th. You've got,
There's your dates, Mr. Bowman.
yeah, there we go. There we go. I was looking at it right here. So November 26th is Thanksgiving week. I mean, you expect the department heads to have those.
They've had this for the whole month of November. So
Okay,
they've
for the
worked
CIP.
on that, and
And
yes.
then-
And
then-
that gives them a little time too, if they don't meet that deadline,
Okay.
for me to check back with them. And, we did change the guidelines, so your CIPs now are going to be anything in excess of $100,000. So that really narrows who would actually be completing those. But I've had phone calls. I think folks are working on those. And you all wouldn't actually adopt that CIP until January.
Okay.
So that gives you some time, hopefully by December's meeting, you'll have them, then you'll have a month to review them before you actually are deciding on anything.
Okay. And then you have one on December 27th, this week of Christmas.
Right, and we open up that budget process. We'll do that the last week of November. Like next week, we'll probably go ahead and open up where people can go ahead and enter their budget requests. So they have a whole month to work on requests.
Okay. All right, good. I think that's the only thing that just jumped out at me, so those are good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bowman. Any further questions for Ms. Vanderhyde? All right, not hearing any? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, we move into item 6C, reorganization meeting date. Ms. McCluster, you have some dates for us?
Typically, we do our reorganizational meeting on the first Thursday of January. That ends up being January the 2nd this year. It should be pretty quick. We don't have to swear in any new board members or anything like that. I'm just trying to gauge a time that's good with everybody on that Thursday, or if you needed to do it a different day, we can do that as well.
I get off work at 5:30, so at least 6.
Okay.
6 o'clock.
I mean, we can do it at 6 o'clock?
Is everybody okay with that?
Is that
Consensus
January the
of
2nd,
everybody?
you said, or
The 2nd.
The
mhm.
2nd.
It's on a Thursday.
is everyone good with that? Is
Yeah,
there
I'm good with
any questions? Or?
As far as I know, could you send out an invite to everybody
Yes,
on
and if
that?
something
Thank
comes up,
you.
just let me know.
Okay,
It's flexible,
thanks.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll
Okay.
go for 6 o'clock on January the 2nd.
Very
That'll-
good, thank you.
That'll be good, thank you. All right, thank you, Ms. McCluster. Moving to item 7, business meeting discussion. Do we have anything on that, Mr. Hunt?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move to item 8 for our closed session. Mr. Hunt, will you read us into closed session?
Yes, sir. The first closed session tonight, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.2, 3711A8, subject matter, Act of 911, purpose, consultation with legal counsel / legal advice and discussion regarding the same. Second item is discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiation strategy of the public body. Legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.2, 3711A3, subject matters, potential real property acquisition for public purposes, 29 Medical Center, Mount Cross Properties, purposes, review / discussion regarding the same. The next closed session is discussion concerning prospective business or industry or the expansion of existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.2, 3711A5, subject matters Cambridge and Toy Story, purpose, economic development projects update / discussion on unannounced prospective businesses and industry. And the final closed session, discussion, consideration, interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resignation of specific public bodies, officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. Legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.2, 3711A1, subject matter, county attorney, next steps, purpose, review / discussion of related next steps. Those are the closed sessions this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Height, a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ingram. Any further discussion? Not hearing any, we're ready to vote. Motion carries unanimous. Go into closed session, gentlemen. Thank you.
Beat that gavel down.
I will now certify closed session. Be it resolved that at the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors work session on November 19, 2024, the board hereby certifies by recorded vote that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorized the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. If any board member believes that there was a departure from the requirements of the act, he shall so state prior to the vote indicating the substance of the departure. The statement shall be recorded in the board's minutes. I will now take a roll call vote. Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Height?
Yes.
Mr. Ingram?
Yes.
Mr. Whittle?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
The meeting, closed session is now certified.
All right, thank you, sir.
Work
Work
session.